Happy Valentine's Day! All you YouTube watchers. I'm sorry there's a little echo. I'm in our office, one of our offices, and there's nobody here, so it's very quiet and echoey. It is Valentine's Day, though, so we got a special treat for you today. First of all, my wife gave me a present. Just got this present, so we're going to see what's in the box. One thing she got me was an open-close sign because our office windows are so tinted, and nobody can ever tell if we're here. So now I guess we're official. We got an open-close sign. Gave me a card. I've already opened all this, by the way, but it's a really nice card. Very thoughtful. And then, of course, I get chocolates because I'm so sweet. So thank you very much. That was very kind of you on Valentine's Day. And it's a good transition from the Valentine's present to our subject matter for today, which is divorce. Of course, divorce is the perfect subject for Valentine's. One of the things that's great about talking about divorce on Valentine's, and everybody's like, oh, that's terrible. You think about divorce. Well, I think if you have some information on how divorces work, you might be less likely to want one. I'll give you a little background. So I personally have been through a divorce, and I hope I never have to experience it again. Part of the big issue for me of actually going to law school in the first place, because I went kind of later in life than most people, was that I went through a very tumultuous divorce myself, over mostly fighting over custody of my 4 children. I have 4 kids, and yes, I do have a TV. But anyway, so I personally have been through divorce, and now I think about all that, the personal experience that I had, and of course the training now with law school gives me a slightly different perspective than some attorneys, because I do feel for anybody that's going through a divorce, especially one they don't want. A lot of times they come out of the blue. It's not always agreed between the parties. So I can relate to that feeling that people get, how depressing it can be, and how it's like it's the end of the world, and how stressful it is, and how expensive it can be. So anyway, I'm going to go over just an overview of divorce. Now, this will be a very general overview because divorce can be very complicated. But I'm going to kind of give you just some direction. I do, of course, warn you, as always, that the information I'm giving you is primarily related to Tennessee divorces. But, it's kind of general for lots of places. But there are different types of divorces in other states. For example, Arkansas has what they call a covenant divorce. It's significantly more difficult to get a divorce if it's a covenant divorce than just a general divorce there. But Tennessee doesn't have any provisions like that. So here's your overview. So the first thing in divorce that an attorney is going to look at when you come in and you discuss it with them is, in Tennessee, you do have to have grounds. Now, Tennessee has what's called a sort of quasi-uncontested divorce grounds, and that's irreconcilable differences. It's just sort of general agreed divorce in Tennessee. Anything other than irreconcilable differences would need to be proven by evidence. So you have a lot of people come in and they're real, heartbroken over things, and they want to plead things like adultery or inappropriate marital conduct and whatnot. And a lot of times we'll plead one of those in there, but you don't have to have that. It's not going to make a difference, really. There's one area that it does make a difference that we'll discuss here in a little bit, but generally the grounds of divorce aren't going to be a huge deal, okay? So if you're not agreeing to the divorce, it's considered a contested divorce. And that's where you really start to get in fees. You can do an agreed divorce on your own. Now, the paperwork can be kind of complicated. I don't recommend it, but you can do it. You can do an agreed divorce pro se, which means that you do it, you and your partner do it on your own. If there's any area of contention, and usually the 2 points of contention are going to be property and visitation. And then in with the visitation of the children is also the support obligations that are usually going to be debated too. So you have several grounds in Tennessee. I won't go through all of them, but you got to plead grounds. That's what the complaint initially sets out that a lawyer is going to draft for you, or you draft yourself. The next thing is property, the dissolution of the property. Basically, any property that you've purchased together during the marriage is marital property, and it'll be split. It's an equitable distribution is what the court says. So it's not exactly 50-50, but they try to divide it equally. Now, one thing that I think will help you to focus on here is in divorce, it's not equal distribution, and it's not just assets. They'll literally sit down, take a piece of paper, write out what you own or what you guys have bought together, and the debts you've accumulated together. And a lot of times people are like, oh, it's not fair, they're getting X, Y, or Z. Well, a lot of it depends on the debt ratio too, so you've got to consider the debts. Anyway, all of that is handled in the marital dissolution agreement. The MDA handles the allocation of property. And also, spousal support can be an issue. That's alimony. Tennessee does award alimony. Tennessee disfavors long-term alimony usually by public policy, but it really depends on the court. Each court's different at different locales on whether they'll do alimony or not. And there's a whole lot of provisions on whether or not alimony is going to be appropriate. Length of the marriage, the age of the parties, the education level of the parties. If you've only been married for 6 months and you're 23, doesn't matter really how much money each of you makes. Very unlikely you're going to get alimony. Versus if you've been married 40 years and one of you makes a whole lot of money, the other one, didn't have a career because you raised the kids. That might be an example where they're probably going to get some kind of spousal support. I will say this though: the only way that something like fault in the marriage, like on adultery, plays into anything is in alimony. The judges can consider fault for alimony purposes. With things like adultery, but again, the public policy nowadays is that's rarely the case too. They really just look at the other factors I had mentioned. So that would be the MDA. The marital dissolution agreement is one of the issues that deals with the property that you have to discuss and try to get worked out. And then of course you get to custody, and that's in a parenting plan. Parenting plan sets out the custody and visitation schedule for the parties. You can agree to all kinds of different things. 90%, I would say, that's a rough estimate of contested divorces. Once they go to mediation, will be worked out and will be handled really as an uncontested divorce. Okay, so mediation is required in Tennessee in any divorce where there's disputes between the parties and it involves children. So mediations where you go to a neutral mediator. We have a great one around here that our office likes to use. Initials would be KC. So what's up, KC? Anyway, the mediators are really good. They stay neutral, and they try to help you come to some agreement when you have disputes on issues. And you could agree on all kinds of stuff and have like one issue and still go to mediation and hammer it out. Once you do mediation, if you come to an agreement on all the issues, technically it's an uncontested divorce at that time. One of the parties would go put proof on in court once the statutory time frame is passed, and the divorce could be granted based on that. So another thing that you need to consider is the statutory. So there's a statutory time period before a divorce can be granted in Tennessee anyway. Most states are like this. Tennessee, if it's just a couple and no children of the marriage, there's a 60-day mandatory waiting period before the divorce can be final. And that's because you guys might fall back in love. Everything might be wonderful again. You know, Valentine's Day, and have a great Valentine's Day and get good presents and whatnot. So you have to wait 60 days. If you have children, you have to wait 90 days. So it's 90 days with kids in Tennessee. With kids is children born of the marriage, or that were adopted during the marriage somehow, or of the marriage. A divorce can drag out and they can get expensive. You got to look at costs. So you got obviously your initial attorney's fees, contested versus uncontested. You got the filing fees, service of process fees with the court. Those are outside the scope of attorney's fees. You'll be responsible for those. You might have mediation fees. Tennessee requires a parenting class for both parties to go to. That costs money. So they can add up, but they do definitely add up on attorney's fees. And I'm going to warn you guys about something. So we have a lot of clients that email and call us all the time. And we'll tell them up front, look, we bill you. If you call us, great. Email us, wonderful. But we're going to bill you. And so you can get a real quick bill, way attorneys bill. You can have a real big invoice all of a sudden, and then you're like, well, I don't understand. Well, we'll let you know if there's something you need to know. I understand it's a pressing issue for you, but for us, we got to make a living, and every minute is potentially something that we could bill. So if we're spending time on your case, we're not spending time on another case, and that's what I'm selling is my time, really. So be understanding on your attorney trying to get back with you. Most attorneys I know are really, really good folks, and they're trying to do a good job, but we have a lot of cases too besides just yours. So that brings me to two main rules that I think I personally learned. This is what I'm going to leave you with, that I personally learned from my divorce, and that I've learned in dealing with the divorces now and practice as an attorney. The first one is it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. So you need to be open-minded. That's the rule. Be open-minded. A lot of people go into it with preconceived notions of the way the divorce should go, or what should happen, or who should get this property, or how the kids are going to end up. It's not gonna work out like that. Okay, it's gonna go probably somewhere in the middle, but it's not gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. I don't care how good your facts are. The second thing is, if you have kids, put the kids' interest first. Now, it seems like it goes without saying, right? Because you guys are like, I love my kids. Kids are number one. But I've seen it time and time again. It's so easy for emotion to get involved in that, and us to make emotion-based decisions that maybe aren't the best or the most logical decisions in the situation, because you're so clouded and so fogged by this heightened emotion state that you're in. Try to step back, because ultimately, if you have kids, you are going to be okay. Okay, your spouse is going to be okay. Y'all are going to move on. I'm remarried, wonderful spouse. Very happy now, and I hope that my ex is very happy now. But in the heat of it, it's very easy to focus on the other person, and you don't realize that these kids are the ones that are seriously affected by it, even more so than you. So always remember to make the decisions that aren't based on what necessarily is good for you, but what's good for your children. Children are involved. So, I think for me, it's a personal thing. I try to direct clients to do that. It's hard to do sometimes, but try to do that. So be open-minded and put the kids first. I think that's very important. Divorces can drag out. They can be really long. It all depends on how agreeable you're going to be. I think it's important, if you go in, like I said, and you're open-minded, you might be more likely to come to some, mutually beneficial agreement. It's not good to stab at the other person, but at the same time, as attorneys, if the other party's not being reasonable, well, sometimes we can't be reasonable. You've got to look out. You do have to look out for yourself, for your own best interest. Obviously, though, like I said, that's all with the caveat, you got to keep the kids first. So hope you guys have a good Valentine's. I hope you have a Valentine's. If you do have any questions about divorce or anything specifically, feel free to message me about it. You can call our firm at the number below. Also, if you would, like the video if it's been informative. And, of course, I'd love to have all you guys subscribe, leave me comments and all that kind of stuff. And let me know what you'd like me to do a video on next. I've done a couple now. Trying to do one a week at least. So if there's something else you have some interest in, feel free to let me know. I'd be glad to help you out. So thank you for watching. It's Jere Mason, the Kickin Lawyer. And I hope you have a really good day. And, kiss your Valentines for me.